Football fans far and wide, welcome to episode 11 of the Football v Football podcast. It's good to be back talking about the English Premier League, specifically Fantasy English Premier League. And today we're going to be discussing the top 20 defenders from the English Premier League. Hope everyone had a great international break. We're getting ready to get started on Saturday with game week 9 of the EPL season. So a little bit about the methodology of this ranking. So as mentioned in previous videos, the highest value of an outfielder is their ability to score or contribute to a goal. And that's also my belief with defenders, but in a slightly different way. So the reasons why shots on target are not going to be indicative here in this ranking is those are mostly central defenders that just occasionally come up on corners. You see that with the archetype, which is Virgil van Dijk, and he's only really kind of up there on corners, and then he kind of scales back for the rest of the game, essentially. So for this ranking, the most important statistic is accurate crosses, because they're the most demonstrable skill of an attacking defender when it comes to assisting goals. Defenders that attack while almost exclusively do so along the flank, not in the center of the field, so that kind of necessitates crosses. So being able to do those accurately sets up goals best. And another statistic here I will say is it is secondary to accurate crosses, but it's key passes. And what key passes are is assists for shots attempted. So this statistic doesn't necessarily indicate where on the field the assist is. So while you have accurate crosses almost exclusively in the box in great scoring position, key passes could be outside of the box. They could be anywhere where the defender you pass the ball to decides to shoot. So given all this, we're going to go ahead and jump in to the top 20 ranking for EPL Defenders. Starting at number 20 here, we have Emerson Royal from Tottenham. So his statistics here, he has 4 accurate crosses and 2 key passes. He's a guy that I think will continue to progress. I think Arsenal or Tottenham is a very stacked team, and they have a lot of defenders also waiting in the wings like Jed Spence, but Emerson Royal seems to also kind of get up the flank. Has 4 accurate crosses, 2 key passes. I think he's a good player. I'm waiting for him to do more throughout the season. I think he has a pretty high ceiling. So Emerson Royal at number 20. At number 19, we have Matty Cash from Aston Villa. So Matty has 4 accurate crosses and 3 key passes. A lot of his other defensive statistics are not great, and in previous seasons he's been a lot better at this, a lot better at attacking, but with just the 4 accurate crosses and 3 key passes and some of the lesser statistics in other aspects of defending, we got him here at number 19. At number 18, we have Vladimir Coufal from West Ham United. Vladimir has 3 accurate crosses and 5 key passes. This is a guy that's been consistent over the years with attacking along the flank on West Ham. He has another teammate that I'm going to mention a little bit later in the ranking here. West Ham have been pretty consistent over the past couple years. This year they got off to a slow start. Coufal has had some injury issues over the past, I would say, year or half year. But when he's healthy, he's one of the best attacking defenders in the Premier League. So Vladimir Sufal at number 18. At number 17, we have Harry Tafalo from Nottingham Forest. A new entrant into the Premier League. He has 4 accurate crosses and 3 key passes. These are the same statistics as Matty Cash, but because he is a better overall defender, this lands him at number 17. Nottingham Forest, unfortunately, have one of the poorer teams talent-wise in the Premier League, but Harry will consistently get you points because of his attacking defensive style, and there is room for them to become more familiar in the Premier League and continue to do better as they progress along this season. So at number 17, Harry Tafalo. At number 16, we have Purvis Estupiñán from Brighton and Hove Albion. Purvis has 3 accurate crosses and 5 key passes. This is a guy that was much heralded coming into the season. I believe he was a transfer. Brighton had a very bright start to their season, and now with the loss of their manager, Graham Potter, just as I mentioned in a previous video about midfielders, it's really up in the air how this team is going to play from now on, but this guy is undeniably talented, and I think he'll continue to provide a lot of, especially key passes, 5 key passes against 3 accurate crosses. So he does a little bit of everything. He's a little kind of in the center of the field, or he gets it into the center, but he also crosses it well. So at number 16, Purvis Estupiñán. At number 15, we have Matt Targett from Newcastle United. So Matt has 2 accurate crosses and 7 key passes. Matt, over the years, even back last year when he was at Aston Villa, is a guy that does provide a lot of crosses and is a very much so attacking defender. This year, only 2 accurate crosses but 7 key passes, so he has found ways to contribute in different ways here through the key passes. But he has had some injury issues, and to still put up these numbers is very impressive as long as he stays healthy. He has a great team. He has a great attacking style. He also has a great goalie in Nick Pope. To be on this Newcastle defense that continues to add players and continues to get better. Of course, they're under new management, and the head of this team has a ton of money, so they'll continue to pump in a lot of talent onto this team. I foresee great things for Matt Targett and his style of play as a defender. So at number 15, Matt Targett. At number 14 here, we have Rico Henry from Brentford. Rico has 4 accurate crosses and 5 key passes. This is a guy that's been a little bit inconsistent throughout his career, his couple years, I guess, now in the Premier League. Just because of this defense has kind of been a little bit inconsistent. So some of the forwards that he's been feeding the ball to over the years, or I guess over the past year and a half, have been inconsistent. But with the emergence, of course, of Ivan Toney becoming a real superstar, Brian Mbeumo, I think that a lot of his crosses will start turning into goals, and essentially he'll rack up a lot of assists. And 4 accurate crosses, 5 key passes, that's very solid. So if he keeps up this pace, I think that he continues to have a great season. So at number 14, Rico Henry. At lucky number 13, we have Justin James from Leicester City. So Justin has 5 accurate crosses and 5 key passes. He's on a team that is struggling a bit this year, but I foresee them as they continue to get Madison and Vardy. Those are some of the classic players they've had for a while. They haven't made a lot of moves in the transfer windows. There's still another transfer window coming up, I believe in January. So maybe they'll add more firepower, but it's undeniable Justin James is involved in the attack on defense. So that lands him here at number 13, Justin James. At number 12, we have Ryan Ait-Nouri from Wolverhampton. So Ryan also has 5 accurate crosses, 5 key passes. He was fighting for playing time, I believe, last year with Marcel, or there was another defender that was taking playing time away from him, but I think he has locked down that defending position this year. Wolverhampton have struggled a little bit to start the year, but Ryan Ait-Nouri, throughout his time at Wolverhampton, has been known to put up good numbers, that attacks pretty often, and as long as he's healthy, I think he'll continue to provide those. So at number 12, Ryan Ait-Nouri. At number 11, we have the new addition to Chelsea, Marc Cucurella. Mark has 5 accurate crosses and 5 key passes as well. Same as some of the other statistics that we spoke of, but he has better overall defensive statistics, so that lands him here at number 11. At the beginning of the season, there was some question about how much playing time he would get. He plays similarly to Marcus Alonso and Ben Chilwell, in that he's also an attacking defender. Also, Reece James, who will be mentioned a little bit later in this ranking. It was a question about whether there would be playing time for him, and again, now Graham Potter coming into the picture as their new manager. What kind of rotations is he going to be in? They've been putting Mark actually as a midfielder essentially because of his prowess in kind of opening up space and then finding that good cross or finding that good pass on the attack. But he's still categorized as a defender. So as long as he continues to get playing time, this guy gives a ton of effort. I remember him at Brighton and Hove Albion. Once he joined that team, I had him on my fantasy EPL team, and he was one of the guys that always flashed and stood out onto the screen. When he was with Brighton, they didn't really have any good strikers that were able to finish off a lot of these great passes that Mark was feeding them. But of course on Chelsea, they have more firepower, and it's a well-oiled machine. Graham Potter seems to be a good manager. There seems to be a lot of promise with this team. I have high hopes for Mark. I believed he would actually be higher on this list than 11 by this first international break, but there are some growing pains. Tuchel did get sacked, but I foresee Mark moving up this list as the year moves on. So at number 11, Marc Cucurella. At number 10, we have Vitaly Mykolenko from Everton. Vitaly has 5 accurate crosses, 6 key passes. This is a guy that kind of flies under the radar. I feel like he is not very well known, but he is very, very solid. Everton have been underperforming for the past couple years, actually. Even though I feel like they do have some very, very solid players, Anthony Gordon, Damari Gray, Dwight McNeil. I'm not a big fan of Neil Maupay, but this team has, when they get Dominic Calvert-Lewin back, he's going to be another solid defender or offensive weapon. I think he has kind of regressed a little bit, but Everton, it's not for a lack of talent. I believe that their manager Gerrard is kind of underperforms as a manager wherever he's been so far. So I think that kind of explains why a lot of goals haven't resulted in a lot of these great statistics that Vitaly has: 5 accurate crosses, 6 key passes. But there is promise for this team to continue to improve, and Vitaly is doing his part here. So at number 10, Vitaly Mykolenko. At number 9, we have João Cancelo. from Manchester City. Cancelo has 5 accurate crosses, 6 key passes, same as Mykolenko, surprisingly. I mean, this is another thing that will definitely surprise a lot of people that haven't looked at these statistics. But he is on a far superior team, a well-oiled machine. But, Cancelo is not doing as well this year as he did last year. I think there have been some adjustments that this team has had to make with him, and his play has seemed to regress just a little bit. Maybe there is some adjustment to a new defensive scheme that they're running. It seems pretty similar, but it's undeniable he is a great defender. Maybe not as great as last year, at least to start this season, but good enough to land him here at number 9. So number 9, João Cancelo. And number 8, we have Andrew Robertson from Liverpool. So Andrew has 5 accurate crosses and 9 key passes. So this is one of Liverpool's great defenders here, along with him and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who you'll see a little bit later in this ranking. He has been one of the guys that also takes charge of a lot of the set pieces, a lot of the corners. He is very heavily involved in this offense. They've been a little slow to start the season. I'm not sure why. They play a lot of games. They're also in Champions League. But it's undeniable. Andrew Robertson is a consistent part of this attack. And he's a guy that also is a threat to score goals because of his involvement on set pieces. So at number 8, Andrew Robertson. At number 7, we have one of the great defenders for both Chelsea and England, Reece James. James has 6 accurate crosses, 7 key passes, and he is ahead of Andrew Robertson, even though they have similar statistics here because he has better overall statistics. Again, this is another guy, like I mentioned earlier, like Marc Cucurella. On Chelsea, a little bit of uncertainty with a new coach coming in. Graham Potter projects to be better than Tuchel was, but really you never know in a new system. But Reece James, always a threat. He has a tremendous boot. This guy is able to get shots off as well as, not only these accurate crosses and key passes, but he's also a tremendous shooter of the ball. So when he finds space and gets open, he will shoot the ball and he will get some goals for you as well. So he is a very valuable player at number 7, Reece James. At number 6, we have a little bit of a surprise here, Diogo Dalot from Manchester United. So he has 5 accurate crosses, 10 key passes. This guy is constantly feeding the Manchester United defense. This is not something that I had anticipated coming into this year, but he has really outperformed his expectation. I think also Manchester United is starting to hit their stride. This could become a very scary team, and Diogo Dalot is the most important Manchester United attacking defender, so that lands him here at number 6. At number 5, we have Lucas Digne from Aston Villa. So Luka has 8 accurate crosses and 6 key passes. This is what he's known for. All throughout his career, he has been an attacking defender and a tremendous one. You will see him also often, not only on the flank, but also sometimes in the box as well. This guy moves a lot. He has a lot of high energy. Sometimes, because of how much he moves around, he does get injured. You see that he does miss a few weeks out of the year, and he's already missed time this year, but to put up these kind of numbers after also missing time is very impressive. He, again, is also involved in set pieces and corners and things like that. He's a very valuable player. Aston Villa has had one of the slower starts to the season, but if they continue to progress throughout the year, then he will continue to be a valuable player. So at number 5, Lucas Digne. At number 4, we have Aaron Cresswell from West Ham United. So Aaron has 6 accurate crosses and 10 key passes. This is the same as Luka Dean, as we just discussed. In terms of total overall, when you bring the accurate crosses with the key passes, but he has better overall statistics and a better overall situation. Aaron Cresswell has been one of my go-to favorite players in fantasy over the years because of the volume he gets as an attacking defender. Many of the same things I mentioned with Luka Dean. He's involved in set pieces and corners. He's a great attacking defender. Him and Fall along the flank, especially last year, were extremely impressive. They've been a little bit disappointing to start this year because of that team has just kind of started off slow, but they have a lot of pedigree to continue to do well this year. If Cresswell stays healthy, he also guy that gets sporadic injury, not as much as many other players. He is pretty resilient, I will say. But if he stays healthy and the West Ham continues to progress this year, I think he can continue to have a great year as an attacking defender. So at number 4, Aaron Cresswell. Moving in to the top 3 here, we have at number 3, a bit of a surprise perhaps, Neco Williams from Nottingham Forest. Yes, a player from Nottingham Forest is in a top 3 defensive position. Neco Williams has 8 accurate crosses and 9 key passes, one of the most integral players on this team in their attack. And no matter who you talk to, Neco Williams is extremely valuable. Listen to many of the other podcasts and experts in FPL. Neco Williams is a real star in FPL and in the EPL in general. Again, not on a great team, but him and Harry Tafalo are the ones that do get the offense started. Now, their strikers, Brennan Johnson and Iowini, they're not superb. I will concede that. But maybe as they kind of adjust from the second division into this first division, they will get more comfortable and they will start scoring more goals to give Neco Williams some better statistics. But Neco Williams does what he's doing his part. So at number 3, we have Neco Williams. At number 2, we have Kieran Trippier from Newcastle United. What a player this guy is. He has 9 accurate crosses and 13 key passes. This guy is an absolute superstar. I knew it once he got to Newcastle last year. He had an injury that he tried to play through. He's a very resilient player, and I think it only made it worse. So he had to sit out, I think, the end of last season. But when this guy's in the game, he is tremendous at set pieces. One of the best free kick takers in the league. He's also involved in other set pieces and sometimes involved in corners, but he is constantly up on the field. And even though he's a defender, he is a de facto one of the best attackers on this team. There's no doubt about that. So I see great things for Kieran Trippier. I think he's past the injury. So at number 2, Kieran Trippier. And finally, at number 1, surprise, surprise, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool. So Trent has 12 accurate crosses and 13 key passes. He is constantly feeding this Liverpool attack and at times also becoming a part of their attack. Sometimes he's taking more and more shots actually as the season progresses and as he's started to progress in his career. Okay, Trent. I do not have a high opinion of him as a pure defender. In fact, I think he is a liability on defense. However, he would be one of the best midfielders if they were to put him in that position. I think the only issue here is that Liverpool, I think they have some struggle. If they were to try to put Joe Gomez in that position or somebody else, I think that they would do even worse, and there would be a loss of a lot of Trent's attacking prowess. Um, Even in kind of a disappointing start to the year, and I remember there was one game where Trent was pulled before the 60th minute of a game, which was very shocking. Klopp, I think, is starting to experience some panic. I think in the beginning of the year here, maybe it's because they were missing, Jota with an injury and Darwin Nunez with a suspension, as well as Thiago with an injury. Perhaps as they get a lot of these players back, Klopp will sort of calm down, and this team will regain their standard, which is, I mean, their ceiling is still champions of England as well as champions of Europe. And Trent is one of the premier players in the league, and it shows in whatever statistic you want to look at, even in this statistic here, which is as an aggressive defender. So at number 1, Trent Alexander-Arnold. So just to recap the list here of the top 20 EPL defenders. At 20, we have Emerson Royal. 19, Matty Cash. 18, Vladimir Sufal. 17, Henry Tafalo. 16, Purvis Estupian. 15, Matt Target. 14, Rico Henry. 13, Justin James. 12, Ryan Aitnouri. 11, Mark Cucurella. 10, Vitaly Mikolenko. 9, João Cancelo. 8, Andrew Robertson. 7, Reece James. 6, Diogo Dalot. Number 5, Luca Dean. Number 4, Aaron Cresswell. Number 3, Neco Williams. Number 2, Kieran Trippier. And your number 1 defender, still, surprise, surprise, Trent Alexander-Arnold. So thank you all for tuning in today. I wanted to get this out about the defenders, since there have already been videos about forwards and midfielders. This has been a long-standing metric of mine, and these are some hints about how I have chosen my players, and it's resulted in pretty good success in fantasy EPL. So if you'd like to continue to follow this podcast, we're on Instagram at football_v_football, on Twitter at fballvfball, on YouTube, Spotify, and Anchor under the name Football V Football Podcast. And of course, you can kindly support this podcast on Ko-fi. The website there is ko-fi.com/football-v-football. Thanks all again for listening to this podcast. I'm very excited for the international break to be over and for game week 9 to get started. And we'll see how this season continues to go. It's been a great season so far. Hopefully it will continue to be. Thanks all for listening, and have a fantastic day, football fans.